Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the World Cyber Arena Hearthstone Pro Qualifier Final. Once again, I'm Osmo joined by Frodan, and we are about to jump into the match.
Right after a quick commercial break.
Yeah, we're gonna give it a go, is what they told us. We're gonna give it a go. So these two players, they've been waiting there. You know the football term, icing the kicker.
I don't really play sports ball, so you have to fill me in here.
It's in football when at the end of the game, when a field goal kicker has to make one kick to win the game. If the other team has extra timeouts to burn, they'll wait till the kicker lines up and then use their timeout, like right when they're about to snap the ball, to like disrupt his mentality. Well, we're effectively icing the kicker, but it was like if the refs did it.
Gotcha.
That's what we're doing to Chakki and Amaz right now.
Well, who's the kicker?
They're both kickers.
Oh, football's a weird game.
It is.
It's a weird game.
Yeah, two players can
That's
kick
like the only portion where they actually use their foot for the ball.
Except to kick off.
I guess to kick off too.
Or if like they need to like bump it up to themselves to catch it in their hands.
All valid points, TJ. I think we're gonna start off the game with, or we're gonna kick off this game. Excuse me, with Hunter versus Warrior, and I'm already in the game screen, and it looks like Amaz has got a face Hunter, although those can be deceiving because Hunter has been able to be flexible based off of having the ability to go face while still scaling into the mid and late game even with high mains and freezing traps.
Yeah.
So even though I'm looking at the screen and I see that Amaz is having a pretty aggressive deck, I think it's still going to be hard for Chakki to prove it. Either way, he still has to mulligan for the Fiery War Axes, the Cool Taskmasters, the Armor Smiths, and minimize as much damage as possible.
Yeah, the opening can be... it's going to be hard to tell, of course. Oh, it is going to be Patron Warrior. And not surprised by that, Chakki in the past couple tournaments he's competed in has brought that Patron Warrior. Double Loot Horde in the opening hand. He doesn't have weapons to do with that control. I've talked to a couple of prominent mid-range Hunter players, and a lot of them think that this matchup is in favor of the mid-range Hunter. They say a lot of times they kill them before the combos can start coming out by like turn 7 or turn 8. So if you curve out well, this matchup I do think is in favor of the Hunter. It's on the Patron Warrior to sort of piece together combos early or get out like an early Emperor Thorson to make bigger plays quicker.
That's a really good analysis, TJ. The curve is really valuable to the Hunter because they don't affect and impact the board with their hero power. They do add damage, yes, and that hero power is great in the late game, absolutely. But in terms of how it actually affects the board state, it doesn't do anything. But if you're able to control with really powerful set of cards and pressure, and then use the hero power to start getting you closer to victory, that's where Hunter's at its best spot.
Yeah, unless, of course, Amaz has snuck in a Steam Weedle Sniper into his Hunter deck. Very unlikely.
Yeah, I think unless you're just referencing the joke that they had.
Yeah.
Okay. So what happened was Chakki tried making Steam Wheel Sniper work. I think yesterday with Soleil, they had some decent results. Like they went like 11-1 or 11-2. But overall, they said Steam Wheel Sniper is a bad card because they won those games without it.
Yeah, they said Steam Wheel Sniper. They only actually used the effect of it once.
Well, they did. They used it to snipe this amazing like juggle or weird scenario. But most of the time, it was like, well, turn 8, I'm going to play Steam Wheel Sniper and hero power him in the face for the win.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you didn't do anything, bro. You actually made my life more complicated.
Yeah.
It's not even a River Crocodile either for like this beast synergy.
Yeah, or like a Gilbin Stalker to get the damage automatically. Or guaranteed, I guess I should say.
Right. Alright, well, we go for the Wolf Rider into the face. Definitely one of the right moves to do, although it is risky based off the opportunity that your opponent might have with the Frothing Berserker. But Amaz is well aware that if his opponent removes the Mad Scientist, I mean, which is still the most powerful minion on the board in terms of damage count at the moment, then he's most likely going to pop a Freezing Trap because the Freezing Trap that's in the hand. And if it's Freezing Trap, then that means Amaz most likely has cards that scale up to the Savannah High Main.
Yeah.
If he can continue to curve and draw well, it'll be really difficult for the Warrior to stabilize because now Chakki has to use cards like Whirlwind without comboing. Instead, he has to use it defensively.
Yeah. And you were talking earlier about the how the board matters so much, and Chakki recognizes this. So, I mean, it could have been enticing to fit the curve there, maybe throw down an Acolyte and draw, but denying that secret is so important. Mad Scientist is just such a good card.
Yeah, absolutely. The ability to draw the card from your deck and play it immediately is just like so powerful, because not only is it significant card advantage because it's live on the board, but it also gains you a great amount of tempo, and it also thins your deck. So you don't have to draw that card. Say that card was literally the card that's supposed to be drawn next turn on top. I mean, this is all digital, so it's randomized by a card generator. Or is it, Blizzard? I don't know. But let's just say, you know, assuming it is, then all of a sudden you don't have to draw that. You can draw into the next threat that you'd rather play anyways. And it's as if it's card draw and tempo. That's where Mad Scientist starts getting a little bit wild if you start thinking about how it relates to, you know, Mage and Hunter, two classes which benefit a ton off the secrets.
Yeah. Now, this situation's kind of rough because, one, his curve is terrible. And we talked about it earlier, one of the biggest things with this mid-range Hunter is that you want to curve out really nicely. You want to be able to use up all your mana every turn. You want to be able to do an efficient amount of damage every single turn. This is really like the only play that fits, but he's not really doing much damage. He just has to get rid of that Frothing Berserker, because if he ignores it even for one more turn, there's a potential that he can just protect it with like a Sludge Belcher, which he just drew, all of a sudden it starts to get out of control. It was already at 7 attack.
Yeah, and not to mention everything was off curve. He didn't want to take the damage from Glaive Zuka. He respects the ability for the Patron Warrior to be explosive. The thing about Patron Warrior is that it only needs about 1 or 2 turns, and then it can kill you and completely explode out of the gate. It can do a Patron combo, which does 15 damage, and then the other half, the next turn, they use the Frothing Berserker and give it charge to immediate attack.
Yeah.
So that Sludge Belcher will prove to be quite the headache for Amaz, because he doesn't have his own Ironbeak Owl to silence past the taunt. And the thing about Face Hunter is that your damage often comes in little small spurts here and there, like Wolf Rider for 3, Glaive Zuka for 2, Hero Power for 2. So because everything is so pieced together, the Sludge Belcher often just manages to clear the board and keep your health at a stable amount here. So Amaz might have to start getting some traction, being able to freeze his opponent. And another thing, too, is that he has two weapons here with 4 charges total. He wants to get those out to start swinging. But it gets really awkward, right? Because then if he's developing his weapons, then he has to like play off curve, or things get really weird. Like, you don't want to freezing trap the Ironbeak Owl.
Yeah, my mistake earlier. I called it mid-range Hunter, but the analysis I was giving was for Face Hunter. I just mistook the words. But yeah, this is having to throw that 4 damage just into here. And not only this, but he's not even through the taunt. And next turn, you look at his turn, it's going to be what? Glaive Zuka into the 1-2 Slime, and then equip Eaglehorn Bow. So you're not getting the immediate damage out of the Eaglehorn Bow. You're still like maybe playing the Leper Gnome and Hero Powering. You're not fitting your curve. The Patron Warrior here has Chakki has so much initiative on the board, and his health total is still relatively high. And then of course there's a chance that he draws into Armor Smiths later on in the game and can make like a big Armor Smith Whirlwind turn. This is not the place that Face Hunter wants to be in this matchup.
2 Acolytes on the board makes the Warrior more susceptible to Unleash the Hounds, except for the fact that Knife Juggler and Unleash the Hounds does not want to give Warrior 6 draws. So I like this from Chakki, playing a little bit without fear. A lot of times Warriors are in this mindset where I have to Hero Power as much as possible to get my life total as high and away from the Hero Power. But if you can be proactive and draw cards, now that you have the Warsong Commander, you just have to piece together cards like the Grim Patron, another Whirlwind, a Frothing Berserker. You can land onto those cards. You can pressure Hunter. I mean, and he also is pressuring too. There's 5 damage on the board, and you know, if you can get that attacked once or twice in, Hunter's within killing range too.
Yeah, once you feel like you're behind when you're playing Face Hunter, it can feel like the game is already lost, because you know that you don't really have, besides Quick Shot, which is such an unreliable draw mechanic, you don't have like longevity, you don't have ways to refill your hand. When you spend a turn where the only damage you're applying to your opponent is Hero Power, especially against Warrior, which they just negate it the following turn with armor, you have to find ways to piece together wins, and sometimes it just feels impossible, especially against Warrior, who, like I said, can negate your hero power almost every turn.
Yeah, this is really painful for Amaz. He knows he's most likely going to have to let cards be drawn here without killing the Acolyte at full value. He equips the weapon ahead of time so he can just get that mana out of the way, but the hardest thing about Amaz at the beginning of that turn, he drew a Mad Scientist when he already has a Freezing Trap pulled and played. He had this previous Mad Scientist got frozen, but he can't necessarily guarantee that it won't just draw it again. He already has a Freezing Trap, so it's going to overlap.
Yeah. Armor Smith is... I mean, it's a great draw, but there's a chance he won't even need to use it in this game.
Yeah, I think he's somewhat tempted to evaluate if he can kill his opponent if he drops Thorson or plans for a combo, but at the same time, he could consider playing really defensive. I still think if you have Gromosh in hand, you can start figuring out a way to kill your opponent. If you play Thorson, reduce all the minions, you'll have 9 damage on board, put him down to 7, and if you draw Whirlwind or Inner Rage, then you can lethal your opponent. Almost guaranteed.
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe playing the, getting in the damage this turn. This does, he'll put him at 14 with, this is not going to quite kill him yet. Ooh, he missed the attack.
Uh-oh. I don't think that's the game-breaking decision.
It wouldn't have been lethal. It wouldn't have been lethal on board, even with the 4 damage from Grom, so. Actually,
wait, are you sure?
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9?
It would be.
Wow!
No, Chakki missing that attack. Actually, he found a way to go for a 2-turn lethal.
But he missed the attack.
He
so
missed
now
the attack
there's
with
only
Armor
9
Smith.
damage on board. Grom would be an extra 4, so that would only be 13. So if he did get that attack, that would be guaranteed lethal next turn.
And Amaz can now go for 5 damage, well, 10 damage over 2 turns.
Oh, no!
And he's still within striking distance of potentially ending the game, although Armor Smith does have something to say about it.
That would have been lethal right now if he had gotten that attack in. But yeah, he can just trade in both Acolytes, Loot Hoarder.
Right.
Not only will he draw 3 cards, but he'll also gain 4 armor from the process, trading in the Owl as well. I don't think you even need to X. Well, it would waste all your mana, but there's no reason to because the armor's more valuable at this point.
And he's drawing cards too. I guess you can just put in the Iron Beak Owl here. You don't have to sacrifice Acolyte. Although you would get to gain another armor and draw a card, so that is nice.
I think the armor is
more valuable.
Yeah.
But if you want armor, just armor up and play Thorson.
Yeah, that's true.
Fiery Warlock just to get a little aggressive. It's going to be super defensive here. Is he going to armor up?
All right. He does.
And he chooses to do so.
So he's sitting at 13 health.
Yeah,
with 3 cards in hand and 8 mana,
Yeah, that's going to be the game here. So Amaz ends up conceding. He's dead on board. And Chakki, of course, knows that even if his opponent cleared, he had Gromosh and the weapon to clear. So very good, precise play from Chakki. But this is also expected in a way. Patron Warrior has been deemed as the best deck almost unanimously across the board by the players. This hasn't happened in a long time here, TJ, because even when Mid-Range Hunter was really dominant back a year ago when Buzzard and Unleash combo was only 4 mana or even 5 mana, Mid-Range Hunter was still getting contested by Miracle Rogue as probably the top 2 spots. Can you really say there's a second best deck definitively that's close to Patron in terms of how robust it is and its power level?
Right now, no. If you ask a lot of different players, they'll all give you different decks.
Right. Handlock.
Yeah.
You might say Hunter. Some people are
Royal
really
Rogue.
wild and might say Rogue.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit more contested. People say Zoo. But there's not that people fighting for the spot. And so because Patron Warrior dominates, people are just planning to let it win, so to speak, and then moving on. You know, you can definitely expect Amaz and Firebat and Zalate all to bring Patron Warrior as well.
The biggest indication to me was before the deck was refined, when the deck was pretty new, people were already saying that it was the best deck. And that's something that You said people saying the best deck isn't the it's the first time, but the best deck without being refined, it's nuts.
Well, I mean,
It's
the deck is
nuts.
still going through. It is the nuts. The deck is going through changes too, very subtly. People are playing sludge belchers in it now. Some people throw in big game hunter, so it's good against handlock, and you have big game hunter and 2 executes to control the state of the board because you might have to kill Doctor Boom, you might have to kill, the Ragnaros, and you need to kill like an Alex Strauss or something like that. You just don't have enough removal. So having big game hunter to gain a lot of tempo, that's also an interesting tech card. I like seeing how some people are differing in terms of their opinions. Some people go cycle heavy, some people go tempo heavy. Yeah, there's some variations within Patron.
So Chakki still has Hunter and Warlock left remaining to find wins with. Of course, Amaz still has his full lineup. Now, depending on these choices from Chakki, this could be actually pretty hard for Amaz to find a win with Druid. I mean, if this is Face Hunter, both mid-range and Face Hunter do well against Druid. Patron Warrior does well against Druid. And if it's Zoo Warlock, which Chakki has been running Zoo more so than Handlock lately, or forever, then it's going to be favored against Druid as well. So it might be tough for Amaz to find win with this.
This is a very interesting combination of cards in the opening hand of Chakki. He's clearly going to throw away the freezing check because he'd rather have Mad Scientist for the tempo and the sequencing. And maybe even just a 2-drop would be good just to pair together with Work and Infiltrator on curve.
Yeah.
But usually you play a hybrid hunter with Leper Gnomes and other cards that help control the state of the board and do damage. You really don't often play Work and Infiltrator. That's more of a face hunter card because you're just trying to get every amount of damage possible per mana.
Yeah.
And so it's already an interesting twist. And I remember Chakki was one of the first people to start using Work and Infiltrator in his face hunter deck before it started catching on.
Yeah, I was actually talking to him about that right before the matches today, and he said it's guaranteed 2 damage.
Well, most of the time. It's not.
Arcane Explosion, Knife Juggler, Wisp.
Well, you talk. Oh, Wisp is not 1 mana. It's infinite value, 0 mana. If you look at.
No, I'm talking about the ways to kill it.
Oh.
Arcane Explosion, Knife Juggler with a Wisp. On turn 2, the ways to.
With a Wisp.
Yeah.
Sorry. You spoke it really fast, and I kind of lost track.
Yeah, sorry.
I'll blame the jet lag.
Okay.
The thing about Leper Gnome is that it actually is guaranteed 2 damage versus Work and Infiltrator is more of a board presence, and it gets out early. It's just another 1-drop. Pretty huge that Amaz was able to get Double Shade coined out, and then he can swipe on the following turn. But is he going to take too much damage in the process? Knife Juggler will end up getting a juggle out here, and he hits the Shade, which means it's very hard for Amaz to pick off a trade here. He's going to most likely have to play a Shade number 2 and then kill off the Knife Juggler. It's just too much of a threat.
Yeah. And he's 1 turn away from the swipe as well, but he's going to be taking so much damage over the course of the next couple turns. Now, this is actually one of the things that is one of the tougher parts of playing Face Hunter is when to use Arcane Golem. Because you have to know your matchups really well. Because you don't want to Arcane Golem too early on and give your opponent a power spike before they...
I don't mind just using Quick Shot here, just into the face.
Yeah.
If you use it, you can also Ironbeak Owl and Arcane Golem on 5 mana.
It's all about the curve, baby.
Yeah, not to mention that it makes it awkward for your opponent that might have 5 mana and play a Sludge Belcher, which he happens to have.
Yeah.
And then makes his life more complicated.
Yeah. Whereas if you play Arcane Golem next turn, like what is a Druid going to play for 6 mana?
Right.
That they wouldn't play for 5 mana. Things like that where you need to know when to play Arcane Golem to play around power spikes of your opponent.
That is brutal. Another Quick Shot, and he's going to be able to push Amaz down to 7 health this turn. He's got Quick Shot in hand, but remember, that most likely is Freezing Trap. So he can't even deal with this easily.
And the Sludge Belcher is just going to get silenced. See, this game is so much different from the last one.
Well, this game is over.
It is, yeah. You just push through with Owl and Quick Shot. Doesn't even need the hero power. Just like that.
Well, you know, Chakki's got him covered and then some. So that's going to wrap up the game here. And I think it's a really powerful lesson to just show you that Druid just struggles a lot if it gets outpaced early on. Even if it did get swiped. And if you look at the quality of the hand of Amaz, he had 2 Savage Roars, which means if he stabilized for 1, maybe even 2 turns, he'd easily be able to outrace the Hunter. But he wasn't able to grab that early game tempo. And that's how fundamental it is for you to get cards like Innervate and Wild Growth so that you can seize the early game mana advantage in order for you to leverage whatever card you draw next. Instead, he's stuck with cards that be good and, you know, the Mirror. 2 Shades, you know, 2 Taunts, Ancient of Lore, and Ragnaros. That's great if you want to play a Druid versus Druid.
Yeah. Once upon a time, players said that Druid was one of the best classes to bring in a lot of formats because of its consistency across matchups. But the consistency has sort of faltered a little bit. I think the meta is a little bit more punishing, or the game in general is a little bit more punishing. It's a little bit quicker. Classes are more likely to curve out better than they used to be because decks are becoming more refined with more cards added in. They have more ways to deal with early shenanigans that Druid can put out. Gone are the days where Wild Growth or an Innervate early on just automatically wins you games. So now it's like you have to draw that in order to keep yourself in a lot of these matchups. So you talked about earlier, are players going to be punished for bringing Druid?
Well, specifically, is Amaz going to get punished for bringing Druid? Because I know, again, Firebat was saying, Amaz, don't bring Druid. And Amaz said, okay, and then he brought Druid. Probably to mind game just in case.
Okay,
Firebat
world champion. I won't bring Druid. All right. Well, Chakki just needs to find one more win to secure his spot at the World Cyber Arena Finals.
He's going to queue up Hunter once more time. He knows his opponent might be bringing Handlock, but he also might be bringing Zoo, which is more of Chakki's style. I haven't actually seen Chakki play much Handlock in general, and I feel like if he tries to play Handlock, I think he's outthinking even himself. No, Zoo is a perfectly powerful deck. It's like super reasonable to bring it.
Yeah.
And I don't think Handlock is necessarily the strength of Chakki compared to watching, you know, Life Coach and Sansifka play it. Those guys are absolutely great at that deck.
Yeah, I think right now the difference between like the win rates across the board between Zoo and Handlock is similar enough to where picking the one that you're most comfortable with is the smarter choice, as opposed to picking the one that you think is going to be better. And this is I want to call it the Chakki special, but I know there's been a lot of players involved in the creation of this deck and in the refinement of this deck. It's pretty much just a face Zoo. It's got a lot of burn spells with Dark Bombs and Soul Fires. It's got Arcane Golems, Wolf Riders, double power overwhelming. It basically just goes face.
Well, this is also one of the weaknesses of the deck. Sometimes it doesn't have a great turn 2. You could Dark Bomb this Ironbeak Owl, you could trade and tap, and then you give up the board. You could play your own Ironbeak Owl, but you know that there are better targets to silence than this. And Dark Bomb just gives him some semblance of control, even though realistically, Chakki knows if his opponent has an Equal Horn Bow, has an Animal Companion, has anything, the board does belong to him.
All right, well, this hand is sort of clunky for Amaz with 2 of his heavier drops in here, or probably his 2 heaviest, with the exception of maybe second high main. But Lothin and Savannah high main in his opening hand. Is he going to take too much damage before he can start putting down some pressure of his own? Animal Companion's pretty good.
Well, he can play the Glaive Zuka as well, keep his Mad Scientist at least for damage, control the state of the board. Animal Companion can then come down on curve. In fact, he can play Glaive Zuka, quick shot, and then just go face. I actually like that a little bit better in case he has Abuse Sergeant.
Yeah. Okay. Quick shot for burn, probably. As long as he fits the curve on that turn, like as long as he plays a 2-drop and then like 2 mana, 2 mana, and can chunk out his next turn to either be able to play Lotheb or be able to play Animal Companion, Hero Power, Animal Companion, quick shot, then both those plays seem reasonable to me. But the burn might be better later on to maybe get through like a Defender of Argus, something or other.
Sure. Well, Implosion hits for 3, which is decisively average. And I think if Implosion ran 3 every single time, I wouldn't be upset too much. It's just that when it rolls 4 or 2, I usually feel really happy or sad.
Somebody's upset.
Or both.
Yeah. Feel happy that it rolled 4, but feel sad that you live in a world where somebody else was on the other end of that rolling 4.
Well, all I want to do is play Malygos and then Implosion for 9. I mean, you won't get 9 imps, but you'll feel like a boss.
Yeah. The deck's starting to gain traction and popularity right now, so.
Yeah, there it is. Giving a Mana Crystal over to the Hunter because he realizes that it's coming onto the high main curve anyways, and he's going to pressure.
Now
this
he can
is really good moves.
Leper Gnome, though. Or high main Abusive Sergeant.
Well, just look at how much damage is in the hand of Chakki. He's got 2 Power Overwhelming, or sorry, 1 Power Overwhelming and 2 Soulfires and an Arcane Golem. And if he's able to get all of that off in the next turn,
16.
That's 16 damage from the hand.
Wow.
Amaz gets a Leok. It's not what he wanted. He can use his quick shot to remove the Arcane Golem. Question becomes whether or not he pushes for damage. And he ends up playing both of his 1-drops to contest here. And he is going to race. But this means that Chakki is 1 damage off lethal. Oh, that's a bad draw.
Yeah. I think probably playing Defender of Argus and just trying to push here is trying to push and block some damage on the backswing of this turn is probably going to be the right situation.
Yeah, it's just nerve-wracking because you know your opponent has pushed a lot of damage on you, and playing Flame Imp is 3 damage back at your own face.
Yeah, I don't even know if he'd play Flame Imp.
The problem with playing Flame Imp and Defender of Argus here or something is that you're going to guarantee discard a Soulfire, or you're going to discard something that you need for the combo.
Yeah.
So you actually need to keep that Flame Imp for the chance to potentially win, because you need to have the Soulfire go for 50-50 odds of killing your opponent.
Yeah.
And of course, you're hoping that your opponent doesn't have Unleash the Hounds either.
And he was trying to calculate. Tap would have been, he could have fit it in, but it's just too much damage. Putting himself at 16 with this much power on the board, again, it would have made it so his Soulfires would have been less likely to discard something from his combo. But at the same time, he was afraid of the possibility that Amaz might have lethal.
All right, well, we're going to come down to most likely a 1 in 3 here. You play Arcane Golem, Power Overwhelming, Soulfire the face, and really hope that you don't discard the other Soulfire. No. But if there's anything that I've learned in my time of playing Hearthstone, it's that Soulfire always discards the other Soulfire. Chakki immediately reaches over. And I don't know what else. I don't know what he was expecting. I could have told him that.
The law of Soulfires states.
Yeah. Oh boy.
You have 2 Soulfires.
Awkward.
Awkward. All right. Well, he's still got 2 more opportunities, but Amaz is going to put himself on the board with 1 win.
That was definitely Chakki's best chance to win. I think every single move he made that game was spot on. And a lot of people might be like, well, why'd you even put yourself in that position to risk it? And he knows he's not in a good spot. Hunter did a lot of damage, had the board control. It'd be able to leverage its hero power against the Warlocks, where you're tapping and destroying your own life by 2 per turn, and Hunter's compounding that with Zone 2. You're not going to win the long run if you don't get your Doom Guards. So he'd rather rely on the damage in hand. Plus, he had the opportunity to win, and it was a 1 in 3 to discard that. It's just that Soulfire tends to discard the other Soulfire, and it's kind of become this community meme, but it's also happens so often you feel like it's kind of true.
Yeah. And you can talk about whether or not he should have tapped like the turn before. Yeah, I mean, okay, so we casted a tournament a couple weeks ago where we saw like this deck plus the Malygos deck, where it relies on Malygos plus Burst later on in the game. Out of 6, I believe, possibilities for Soulfire to discard the second Soulfire, 5 of them it did. And some of those were like 1 in 8, 1 in 9 with those Malygos Warlocks. So it does seem like it always discards that second Soulfire.
All right, well, we're going to go game number 4, Warlock versus Warlock. Amaz is showing some life here. I'm glad that we don't have a 3-0 series, because that'd be a little embarrassing for Amaz's end, because you don't want to go out 0-3, especially in Conquest, where you get to choose in corner decks accordingly.
Well, it looks like we're going to have a more traditional zoo from Amaz, taking on this super aggressive, burn-heavy face zoo from Chakki. You can tell the Direwolf Alpha is probably not a card that Chakki includes in his list.
Maybe. I'm not exactly sure. I don't know that list too well. Which side do you favor here in the matchup? The faster damage burst zoo, or the one that normally traditional tries to control the board and pressure your opponent?
I mean, it's still, when it comes down to it, it's like a mirror matchup. A lot of it depends on the early draws. If you sometimes you can't draw into the burn, and you need to rely on board position. And in that case, I think that Amaz's version has more tools to be able to come back on board, or to be able to keep an established board enough to where they can draw into the burn that they have with Doom Guards and stuff. So if Amaz can take control of the board early, I think he'll be in an okay spot where if he can force Chakki to be in a position where he can't draw into his burn, then he'll be good. But again, like I said, still at the end of the day, it's a mirror matchup, and early draws, as much as we hate to say it, play a lot to those.
So Chakki missing the first mana play is a really big deal, because now the initiative belongs to Amaz. His opponent just played the same exact thing as he did, and now he's going to have, what, 5 power on board? That's insane. Like, he's going to really need... Oh, sorry. I forgot this egg doesn't... this spider doesn't pop. So he only has 4 damage.
Yeah. And as the game goes on, like I said, Chakki's going to have less tools to come back on the board. He'll be able to, like, Dark Bomb something, but a lot of times that's so inconsequential against Zoo, because sometimes there's just not good targets to Dark Bomb. Like Imp Gang Boss, no. Like Haunted Creeper, no. A Defender of Vargas, Nerubian Egg, definitely no.
Can you tell me more scenarios, TJ?
I can. Lotheb,
no.
Can't even use Dark Bomb, no. Knife Juggler, yes.
That's definitely the better scenario. Imp Gang Boss here is looks like it should be the play, because there's no way for him to guarantee to one-shot the Imp Gang Boss.
Yeah.
Basically, the way you can firmly control this board is whoever has more 1/1s, if it comes down to Imp Gang Boss trades. Knife Juggler is slightly risky, because if you play Knife Juggler and it doesn't snipe the 2/1 instead of hit the Imp Gang Boss, you're going to ask for trouble.
Oh, okay. Oh!
Wow, that was a great outcome for Jock.
Solid juggles. Oof. Clutch juggles.
Well, and then you introduce this. Implosion for retaliation. Although, would you want Implosion, or can you make a case for Direwolf Alpha, which allows you to also get really good trades? In fact, Direwolf Alpha and Argent Squire, you could hesitate and think about it.
I agree. But Implosion, especially on curve, there might not be too many opportunities for you to use Implosion on curve like that.
Right.
And be able to fit other things in. So next turn he's a little bit more flexible with the fact that he's got Direwolf Alpha, Argent Squire.
Right.
If he draws into nothing, he can fit in a tap.
Yep, really good attack by there from Amaz with the heads-up play. A lot of people, they think, well, I can kill my opponent's Imp Gang Boss, but you forget he spawns 2 1/1s. In this scenario, he has no extra 1/1s, and you still got to spawn 1.
See? What is he going to Dark Bomb? His own Nerubian Egg? I'm just thinking of more possibilities. I see the confused look on your face. Just
yeah, he can Dark Bomb like the Imp Gang Boss, because...
Yeah. It still feels inefficient is the point that I'm trying to make. You Dark Bomb, leave a 1/1 still, it just feels like not the best. Sea Giant, though, with as big of a board as this is, that's a pretty huge draw.
You can squeeze it out for 1 mana, I believe, if you attack.
Squeeze it out for 0. Oh, no, he wants to tap.
Oh, yeah, you can squeeze it out for 0 mana, you're right, sorry. Have the Imp Gang Boss attack into the other Imp Gang Boss, trade down, or play 0. It depends on really what you want to do here. You can do almost anything.
A free 8/8. That's absurd.
He also should trade one of the imps before he attacks the Imp Gang Boss. That way he gets, that's why he gets another imp.
Yeah, otherwise his board would have been full. Running out of time. He's got to figure out what he wants to do with these trades really quickly.
I think I'd rather use the Imp Gang Boss to trade into the 2/2, so that way I get an additional 1/1 spawn, and then come out fully ahead on board. All right. Oh, actually, this is really smart too, because there's no minion with less than 2 attack. Ah, this is very clever. Very good tax by Amaz.
Yeah.
Chakki, on the other hand, he's got more situational cards, and more importantly, he's got a Sea Giant that got played for 0 mana.
Yeah, this is looking rough. 6 mana total.
Yeah.
If he taps, he limits his plays a lot. He's going to have to power overwhelming.
Just play your hand, I suppose.
Yeah. He's going to have to ignore the Sea Giant for now.
He's going to try to fight back, you know, fighting fire with fire here. Dark Bomb can play, kill off the 1/1, spawn another minion. He can use a Void Walker to stall, but unfortunately, Amaz has a great combination of cards to get past that and deal with the board. And Amaz is supposed to be the one controlling the state of the board, not Chakki. Chakki's the one supposed to be presenting threats.
Yeah.
And then Amaz responds. So this start from Amaz has been excellent thus far.
Yeah, and the card that he's going to discard with Doomguard is probably one of the best that you could just get rid of like that with the Void Walker.
Right.
So that's quite an ideal scenario for Amaz going on right now. Still got his healthy Sea Giant. He's got not commanding control over the board, but with is definitely close to it.
Right.
With a Doomguard that's only slightly damaged and still his Sea Giant that's at full health. And now with this state, it's looking pretty grim for Chakki.
No, it's almost over, guaranteed. Like, Chakki doesn't have board control cards. He's got cards to do more damage to the face. I mean, Dark Bomb Soulfire does allow him to deal with the Sea Giant or the Doomguard.
Yeah, but the thing is, even if he was able to stabilize on this board, like clear almost everything, it's still going to come down to like a top deck war. And I feel like the overall quality of cards when getting 2 per turn favors Amaz in that situation. And he's also at a much higher health total already. So even if they're both drawing duds for the next 4 or 5 turns, then Amaz is still going to come out on top because of the health advantage that he managed to gain. So.
What if he was drawing Milk Duds, though? He'd still be losing, but...
Then I would be an advantage.
Yeah.
Because I love Milk Duds.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He'd be still losing, but at least he wouldn't be hungry.
That's true. He was complaining about being fatigued earlier. Milk Duds would definitely help that.
Okay, there's 3 imps on Implosion. Just realized that, but they only spawn 2, so... Ugh. Oh, man, he has to tap for power overwhelming number 2. That's the only out here.
Yeah.
He's a little bit short. That's going to wrap it up. And Chakki drops 2 games with his aggressive Zoo deck.
Now,
is that going to be the limiting factor here? Is Amaz going to 3-0 this Zoo deck? Because that's the key here. I mean, again, we're not talking about Hunter. We're not talking about Warrior. It's always about the 3rd deck that you bring here. And what's so huge for Amaz is that he won already. He won already with 2 of his decks here.
Yeah. But
he still has to play his Druid.
Deck.
And that's the big limiting factor. I'm very surprised that Amaz didn't bring Grim Patron Warrior, all things considered.
Yeah. Especially since he has on his team, has some pretty good Patron Warrior players. So.
Yeah, so he can practice with them.
Yeah.
But he's chosen not to. Amaz is very insistent against combo decks. I think a lot of the reason has to do with the fact that Amaz is also a self-proclaimed bad counter. He doesn't think that he's good at basic arithmetic, and you know he humbly admits that he sometimes can't count properly, and it's something that he doesn't prefer to do. That's why he's never really played Miracle Rogue. That's why he doesn't really play Freeze Mage. You know, that's you'd rather play more board control tempo, think steps ahead, as opposed to like how much damage do I have this turn specifically.
All you need to be able to do to play Hearthstone is count it.
I mean, you think so, but
yeah. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way. But we are about to jump into game number 5 of our first match of the day. Winner gets a trip to the World Cyber Arena Finals in China to compete for, I believe it's like a $264,000 prize pool.
It's absurd. It's higher than BlizzCon.
Yeah.
And that's how much the Chinese really love Hearthstone. Amaz with almost the dream opening hand. If Dr. Boom was Shade of Naxxramas instead of that card, I think Amaz would have the nuts. And he's getting pretty dang close to shutting down the Zoo deck. And he gets Shade of Naxxramas. That is so huge. Amaz now be able to play turn 1 Keeper, Wild Growth into Shade of Naxxramas.
Is there a cleaner way he can do that, though?
He can also coin Wild Growth, Shade, and then Keeper, and hold on to his Innervate for an Innervate Dr. Boom.
Yeah.
But I think he also knows what type of deck this is,
yeah,
isn't
that's
it?
true. That's true.
This is a super aggressive deck. And if you can take the board away from him and he plays Knife Juggler, this keeper can single-handedly 3 for 1.
Yeah. The first play that you mentioned where Keeper the Grove on turn 1 into Wild Growth into Shade, you float a mana. So you can get, when you play the Shade.
You're right.
So you can get super greedy and try and fit your curve exactly by doing what you said, where you're coining out Wild Growth right now, then playing Shade, and then playing Keeper. In like an emergency, if you play something next turn where you're like, oh, I got to deal with that.
Knife Juggler.
Yeah, Knife Juggler. Then you can
see. I don't know.
You can float a mana with the Innervate, and it would sort of be like the same outcome, you know.
Actually, you're right, except you took an extra damage.
Yeah.
2 damage.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, now actually this is really good because now you can Wrath and an Innervate Shade.
He's getting super greedy. He wants the turn 5 Dr. Boom.
Wow.
He really wants the turn 5 Dr. Boom.
I don't know, man. I'm always a little bit nervous about that because I know the payoff is really high. Dr. Boom is super sick against Zoo because you can like use the boom bots and it usually guarantees kills whatever it hits.
Both keepers. Wow, this is.
Yeah, that's excellent draw.
I mean, against Hunter, sometimes you can get punished a little bit more, but I mean, I guess this deck is so similar.
Right.
I think you can afford to take a little bit more damage in the early game than you could against like a Face Hunter, because they don't put you on quite as quick of a clock because they don't. They have more card advantage, but their hero power is not doing 2 extra damage to a turn. So, turn 5, Dr. Boom. This is what he was waiting for.
Yeah, Amaz ends up getting rewarded, being able to rat that keeper and maintain his curve without taking too much damage has been excellent. That opening hand from Druid again, Innervate and Wild Growth helps him smooth everything out and really stabilize. And now, what do you do against Dr. Boom? You have 7 damage from the hand with Dark Bomb and Soulfire, but
then you have to deal with Boom Bots?
Loatheb.
Yeah. Then the Boom Bots are going to be able to clear. Haunted Creeper is one of the best cards you can have on the board against Boom Bots because they can absorb a lot of damage, not only with the Haunted Creeper, but with the Spectral Spiders. But you fall behind with this deck. Unless you put out a lot of damage in your first 4 turns, as soon as you fall behind, it just feels like it's so hard for you to catch back up. Unless you piece together like that crazy turn we saw in that one game where you can do 16 damage with a 1 in 3 chance, but I don't know if that's going to be able to happen this turn. Or this game, I'm sorry.
Oh, man, that's really brutal. The fact that he uses Keeper the Grove now to snipe that Loatheb. The chances were pretty high, even if it rolled for... Actually, even if it missed Loatheb completely, he'd still be able to hit it with his own Keeper.
Yeah.
Maz is playing on point, and now he's pressuring Zoo, and this...
That's lethal next turn.
Yeah, this is where the wheels of the wagon are starting to come off here.
Wow.
Yeah, he's going to have to play defender here. But
is
that enough?
Can he even draw into anything that's going to allow him to...
Savage Roar. Savage Roar here would be lethal.
No, it's Chakki.
Oh.
Yeah, Savage Roar would be lethal, but can Chakki draw anything to salvage this game? I don't think so. Even if he draws like Arcane Golem, Power Overwhelming, which are like the last 2 cards in his deck that have the most 2-card damage potential, he would still only be able to piece together a lethal over 2 turns.
Yeah, this is looking pretty over unless Chakki has some mega whopping surprise card that we're not expecting in the deck, like Mind Control Tech and steal your opponent's Dr. Boom, because right now he can just swipe this down.
Or Twisting Nether.
Yeah.
Doesn't even have mana for Twisting Nether.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, he's going to use Dr. Boom into this 2-3, right? Swipe and Shade.
Yeah.
There's no pressure. There's really no pressure to rush this game here.
He's trying to think, though, like, what can I do to make sure that I play as safe as I possibly can? Like, whatever the highest combo that he could do is, how do I play around at the best? And making sure that he clears the board, not worrying about
super safe, and then going for damage pressure, because he has Force of Nature to get past whatever next turn, too. Yikes. So he goes with this second option,
and the concede!
That's it. Chakki has been reverse swept. His Zoo deck was not able to take a win. He immediately gets up, shakes Amaz's hand, but not exactly the result he wanted. He was up 2-0, but that is the nature of Conquest. A lot of times if the one deck ends up getting pushed out, then that's what happens. You're forced to do it. And it's not even that maybe necessarily that Chakki's deck had specific weakness to Druid. In fact, you can even argue that it's good because of the pressure it builds. But that opening hand from Amaz was absolutely unstoppable.
Yeah.
It's just like you can't stop that type of Druid opening ever. It's just the wild growth into the innervates, into the 2 Keepers of the Grove, which often, again, outvalue the Zoo deck by like 3 cards or 2 cards, is absolutely insane. And Moss got both of them and a Wrath and managed to get safely to Dr. Boom turn on 5. Like there's nothing really Chakki could do short of having the exact specific tech cards. If you allowed him to draw from turn 3 onwards the perfect cards in response from his deck, I still think Moz would win.
Yeah, and Chakki ended up losing all 3 of his losses that series was with the Warlock deck, so it didn't work out for me. Talked about earlier. You have one deck that's bad, not necessarily bad, but like inconsistent or not on for that game, then you're going to be in a pretty rough position. But we do have an interview ready with Dustin on stage with our winner, Amaz, so let's send it over to that.
Amaz, moving on, how did you feel when you were down 0-2 and on the brink of going to the losers bracket?
I felt quite stressed, actually. When I knew that his last deck was Warlock, I knew it was some kind of Zoo lock, and when he played the Dark Bomb, I was like, uh-oh, this is not going to be good. But then he missed the roll on the Soulfire, which was quite unlucky. He should have tapped before, but still, it was like still within his favor to win the series.
Moving on, is there a player that you would rather face in the winners bracket?
Not really. They're both my teammates. So whoever prepares more should be able to take it. So yeah, I'll cheer for both of them.
All right, well, congratulations. Moving on, let's throw it back to the desk.
Thanks a lot, Dustin. Moz, very happy to win that. He also does call to attention that one turn where Chakki had to go for the 1 and 3 Soulfire, or actually the 2 and 3 Soulfire to win the game. The 1 and 3 chance to discard it, but it never feels like 33%. It always feels the opposite way.
Yeah.
It's like no matter how much the odds are in your favor, you can have 1 Soulfire and 7 other cards, but you still feel like, oh, there's got to be like a 50-50 chance for this to happen.
Yeah, Chakki will be moving down to the losers match. He'll compete for 3rd and 4th place later on. Don't believe we'll be showing that, but there's just prize money involved because both 3rd and 4th place go to packs. Whereas Amaz will be, he qualified for that finals in China.
And he's a local, too, from Hong Kong, so he's not traveling too far away. I mean, it's just a different region, sometimes even a couple hours drive for him. The stories of the series also, for me, just to wrap it up here, my final thought, is that Amaz did this without Patron Warrior against the advice of his teammates.
Yeah.
Some people are like, Patron Warrior is really good. And what's funny, too, is I know Amaz can play Patron Warrior. I've actually seen him ladder with it aggressively and do very well. But yet he stuck to his guns, played what he's comfortable with, and he advanced just like we've expected Amaz to do many times. A well-done job for the owner and captain of Archon.
Yeah, and speaking of the WCA finals, there's an open portion to the finals, so you can have a chance to compete against Amaz at the WCA finals. You can go over to WCA/America.com. There's information about the open tournament on that page. So if you want your chance at that $200,000+ prize pool, if you want a chance at a chunk of that, make sure you head on over to that website. But we do have a second match of the day between Zele and Firebat teammates from Archon coming up right after this break.